wasn't sunny and beautiful for the Celtics last night. Let's do that. They were in Denver to take on the Nuggets, and despite a relatively poor shooting performance from Nikola Jokic, he still had 30 points and 12 boards. Jamal Murray left early due to illness, yet still, the Nuggets took care of the Celtics handily, winning 103-84. Joe Mazzulla pulled his starters in the fourth quarter. And so now we ask the question, does last night's results say more about Boston or more about Denver? What do you think there, Wendy?
Well, I have to say, obviously, I am not a player, but I covered many teams that played the second night of back-to-backs in Denver, covering West Coast trips in my career. And I know that it was exhausting for me to come to Denver and make the long drive in from the airport. For decades, this has been a trap situation. And Jaylen Brown knew about it. Jaylen Brown skipped the game in Phoenix 2 nights ago to more be ready. But I'm never going to fault an Eastern Conference team on the second night of a back-to-back in Denver. But this game was really important for the Nuggets. They really have been bleeding. And then not only that, but Jamal Murray got sick. He didn't make it through the first quarter. He had to basically go to the back because he couldn't stay out there. And this team's been struggling. And, in the Western Conference, it's like a free-for-all. Like, you have a bad 2 weeks. You can slide from safely into home court in the first round all the way to the play-in. And Denver has just been playing really shaky defense for weeks. And to get a defensive level performance like this, even facing a team that, wasn't 100% in Boston, it was important. And guys, I'm going to say, Nikola Jokic is not quite right now. This is a guy who, his numbers are always going to be great. He missed 17 shots last night. Yeah. He went weeks on end this season where he didn't miss 17 shots in a week. He is still not back, in my view, from his injuries. And so to limp through victories over Eastern Conference contenders, however they get there, that's important for Denver.
Crazy that you could not be right and have 30, 12, and 6.
I know.
I think it
I'm
says
telling
something
you,
about how legitimately special he is. I don't know about you, Stephen A. I think last night for me, it kind of confirmed a theme that I think I'm ready to openly state here with you, is that when I think about the top tier of the Western Conference and I think about the top tier of the Eastern Conference, I think there's a sizable gap. I honestly think, and I love the Detroit Pistons. Maybe the Cavs can get there. Maybe the Celtics could get there. Maybe the Knicks could get there. I would probably favor Detroit. But I think the Eastern Conference is playing for the consolation prize. I just firmly believe it. I feel like when I watch OKC, even though they're not fully healthy, now health could be a determinant of that. But obviously Denver, they played their best defensive game, I thought, of the season last night. I've heard Wendy talk about Victor Wembanyama potentially being the most dominant player we've had in the game since Shaquille O'Neal and the way they defend with their young studs. Houston probably maybe could crack into the upper tier. But I look at those 3 teams, and I think one of those teams is going to win the NBA Finals. And I pretty much feel that that's a lock, in my opinion. Now, maybe Detroit can scare somebody. But I still think the usage rate for Cade Cunningham is so high. I just wouldn't bet on that. I would bet on one of those 3 teams. That's what that game showed me last night.
Couple of things. Number one, I can see y'all now. Finally, the producers have me on the air. I got to be the last one that people see on the air. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. That's number one. But we're here. Number 2, Wendy, you look like a politician. I approve that message. Jay, you know what? You're always looking sharp, but I'll talk to you about the shirt later. Number 3, let's get down to what happened last night. Okay, what we talked about. Listen, the Boston Celtics. When you're not making threes, you're a different team. We all know they live with it, they die by it or whatever. I know that Jaylen Brown sat out sat out the game with Tuesday in Phoenix. I get that part, knee contusion or whatever. I hope that's what it was, Wendy, because this brother is en route to possibly capturing league MVP honors. And I just hate when cats sit out on the road. Sit out one of the home games, one of the 41 home games you have during the year. When you're on the road, particularly out west, they only get to see you once a year. You want to put those talents on display. So I sincerely hope that Jaylen Brown wasn't sitting down just for rest. Damn it, tired, play anyway, because you're about to capture league MVP honors if you keep going the way that you're going. Last night was a derailment. We understand that. But they couldn't make shots, and that's really what this comes down to. Season worst, 35% from the field, 28% from three-point range. We know that the Boston Celtics are better than that, but last night was not the case. But I do agree with you, Jay. Last night's tonight's results more about the Celtics or the Nuggets. It was more about the Nuggets reminding everybody, there's levels to this, okay? And when you have Jokic playing the way that he was playing, struggling the way that he did, but still finishing with 30 and 12 for crying out loud, that tells you what you need to know. There's no Aaron Gordon there. There's no Watson there right now. And so when you look at it from that standpoint and you see Jokic going out there, doing what he's doing, knowing that supremacy within the NBA really, really lies in the Eastern Conference. Do I believe Detroit could potentially make a run and win the championship? I think they're talented enough to pull it off, but they'd have to bring their A game in order to do that. We all believe that the Eastern Conference is playing for the consolation prize. Even when I bloviated at the start of the season that the Knicks were going to the NBA Finals, I said going to the NBA Finals. I damn sure didn't say win it because I never anticipated them beating an Oklahoma City or even in Denver. So I get where you're coming from, Jay. I totally agree with you. We're playing for the consolation prize, and I think the Nuggets reminded us that last night because even though they weren't fully armed, they still find a way to do what needs to be done, and that's something that the Eastern Conference continuously has shown us they've struggled to do, at least on a perpetual basis.
Nuggets allowed.
I can't believe the two veterans, Shae, that we have of the NBA basketball who just watched the Indiana Pacers come this close to pulling that upset last year, dismissing the Eastern Conference like that. But all right, you go ahead and do that. Go ahead,
get it done.
I'm not dismissing it. I'm just saying favorite.
Well, if
I'm
he
not
didn't get
dismissing
hurt,
it.
they might have won that game.
Halliburton didn't get hurt. Maybe it wouldn't have been this close.
I've said for weeks. I've said for weeks Detroit could win it all. I've said for weeks Detroit could win it all. But what I'm saying is that if you got to bet your money, because we do live in the age of sports gaming, if you got to bet your money, who you going to bet it on? You're going to bet it on the West. You ain't going to bet it on the East.
Tom's reported last night that Jayson Tatum is competing in 5-on-5 scrimmages. And this question's been thrown out a lot, but now it feels a lot more realistic. Should Tatum come back? What do you think for the Celtics?
There is a huge part of me, Shae, that wants to see Jayson Tatum come back. But I don't believe he should come back this season, and I think here's why. Number one, being dropped into this part of the season or later changes the chemistry and dynamic of how your team plays. There are a lot of players right now, and I know a lot of fans would think it can be additive, right, because it's Jayson Tatum. But also, like, not having the fluidity of touching the rock, the continuity of that, the continuity of fitting inside that system this season in particular, I think that would be very disruptive to the way the Boston Celtics played. And also what happens with that is when you drop somebody of his magnitude inside of a team, if that's March or late April, people start deferring. The pressure ramps up. Jayson Tatum starts to expect to try to do things that we haven't seen him do this year, also react in that mindset. So I don't know if I like the position it puts him in. And lastly, what I will say is that, and look, if he gets cleared, he gets cleared. But guys, these Achilles injuries, they aren't anything to play around with. Ain't nothing to play around with. Like, we've seen how many of them happened last year. We see the wear and tear. We see the pace of this game, which is exceptionally different than before. And just inserting yourself back into that at the most intensified time of the year where scattering reports get pinpointed, I just don't like the situation it puts him in rather than have him ease into next season, take his time this offseason, crystallize how he feels, and let that be the ramp where he bolts into next year. That's just how I feel about it. I don't know how you feel about it.
Well, let me be a bit facetious before I get a bit serious by reminding everybody that when Jayson Tatum showed up in the studio earlier this season on First Take, I implored him to stay home. I implored him. I said, "Hey man, you don't need to risk anything. You need to stay home. Don't play. You know, the New York Knicks' path to prosperity. I mean, don't get in the way of that. Stay home, relax, rest for the rest of the season. We'll see you next year. Don't worry about it." You know what I'm saying? He was laughing about that because I was trying to convince him to stay home, right? But in all seriousness, Damian Lillard ain't thinking about coming back this year. Tyrese Halliburton ain't thinking about coming back this year. But there's reasons for that, Jay. And the reasons for that is their team ain't contending for a championship. And I think if we saw the Boston Celtics plummet the way Indiana has in the absence of a Tyrese Halliburton, even though Miles Turner is gone, Mathurin is gone, that kind of stuff. The fact is that you look at the Boston Celtics and the way that Jaylen Brown has been playing, and you're still fantasizing about capturing another NBA championship. And I don't say fantasizing like it's a pipe dream. I'm just talking about legitimate dreams because obviously Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, if Jayson Tatum, some miracle happened and he came back and he was Jayson Tatum, with Jaylen Brown being what we see him being what we've seen him be this season, my God, what could Boston do? You can't rule out anything. And I think that's what this is all about. Me personally, I would be inclined to hold off in all seriousness because it is an Achilles as opposed to an ACL or something else. An Achilles is not something to play with. And to rush back and come back early, you could potentially derail your future with that because this is an Achilles tear that we're talking about here. But I think Boston knows that better than anybody. Tatum knows that better than anybody. Brown knows that about better than anybody. And it's twofold. On one hand, you don't want to see him jeopardize his future, even though you understand why he's doing it, why he would be doing it, because they got a chance to capture a championship. But the other thing is, the same Jaylen Brown that we put on a hot seat in the regular season that has answered the call in MVP caliber fashion, I want to see if that brother, as the number one option, shows up in the postseason too. It would be interesting to see what Jaylen Brown does when he doesn't have a Jayson Tatum to defer to, when everyone is deferring to him, and it's in a best-of-7 series. I'd like to see Jaylen Brown under those conditions because I think he'd respond in a big way and put everybody on notice. You should have had me on the Olympic team, and you should have always considered me a number one option, even if it's 1 and 1A with Jayson Tatum, because I'm that dude.
Shae, I think that this question that's down here, this is only for one person. That's for Jayson Tatum. And he's going to be the one that gets to decide whether he's ready or not. And I think the Celtics have put it in position where they apply no pressure to him, nor have they ever indicated speculation. And they have gone overboard in protecting where he's at in his recovery because they don't want people to get amped up. And they have given him that space. And he has something on his side in all this downside of coming back from this injury. What he's got on his side is he's already proven he's a champion. He's not trying to get back to show people anything. He's answered all of the questions. But where I think it is fascinating is exactly what you just said, Stephen A., is the difference that he can make in this race. Because I could sit here and explain to you, oh, this is why I think Detroit could win. But I could easily explain to you this is why they can't. Say the same thing about Cleveland. Say the same thing about the Knicks. Knicks take 2 steps forward, 1 step back every freaking week. I have no idea what they're going to look like. But and when you look at Boston, as impressive of a season as they're having, let's just be fair and honest. From a talent standpoint, top 8 versus top 8, they don't match up with the other 3 top teams in the East. Now, they would fight on that, and they would say, well, we're going to beat them in 7, and they may end up being able to do that. But from a straight talent standpoint, the Celtics' influx of getting Jayson Tatum, even if he's not 100%, would be game-changing. And, of course, he knows that. And so that's why this is such a fascinating situation, not just because it's the Boston Celtics and they're chasing a championship, but it's the Boston Celtics where if they got Jayson Tatum back, it would potentially change the balance of power in the whole league.
If Jayson Tatum comes back, the Celtics could potentially win a championship. If he doesn't come back, I don't think anyone would slap the Celtics as a team that could win the championship. So you know better than anyone.
He comes back and he's right.
Sure, he comes back and he's right, or 90%, or whatever. To Stephen A's point, when he came on this show, he said, I'm not working out two times a day to not come back this season. I'm doing what I can to get back and get in game shape. He, by all accounts, wants to come back.
Of course.
But you know better than anyone what it's like to come back from a serious injury. Not the same one, right? Not the same one. But your mentality has got to be there. You disagreed with Wendy. Why?
Well, because my thing is that, I know what Jayson Tatum wants to do. Like, Jayson Tatum is a competitor. Like, it's the whole reason why he's training so hard to come back. But I will say this, sometimes the organization needs to protect the player from himself. And Jayson Tatum is 27 years old. There's so much talk about what would this team be like if he came back, and he was absolutely right. For a guy that has not played basketball in 6 or 7 months and is just trying to train in 5-on-5 and practice, we're going to throw him into the playoffs. All I'm going to say is this. He's 27 years old. For as much as you want it to be right now, think about it being right next year when he's 28. Think about being right next year, the year after that, when he's 29, when he's 30, when he's 31. Make sure you think long-term with Jayson Tatum instead of just thinking about we need to get it right here and right now. That's all I'm saying.
Jay's 1,000% right in this regard. Here's how you send that message to Jayson Tatum. You're 27 years old. Jaylen Brown is 28. And you've been to 5 conference finals. He's been to 6. You've been to 2 NBA finals. He's been to 2 NBA finals. You both have won a championship together already. And you got plenty of time to figure out how to do it again. You ain't in your 30s. You in your 20s. You got ample amount of time over the course of your career as a dynamic duo to pull this off. We want to make sure everything is in place and nothing potentially disrupts that for the long term. That's how you sell that to Jayson Tatum. You talk about what you've done repeatedly over the years. Think about the age 27.
Ridiculous.
And you've been to 5 conference finals and 2 NBA finals and a champion. Age 28, you Jaylen Brown. You've been to 6 conference finals and 2 NBA finals, and you're a champion. You do have a legitimate beef to say, what's the rush? Let's make sure we got this right. You're Boston. You could do that because if they did what they did at a younger age, imagine what they're going to do. It's not like they're in their late 30s. They're in their late 20s. They got plenty of time. That's how you pitch that to Jayson Tatum.
Yeah, but you never know with other injuries or what's going to happen with your
That's
roster.
the thing, Shae. Shae, you're right, because I'm telling you, they're going to get there. It's going to be April or May or whatever, and they can see the lay of the land just like we can. They know the lay of the land, and that's why this is so incredibly fascinating. And I'll just say one other thing. DeJounte Murray came back 2 nights ago. We're glad to see him back in New Orleans. He tore his Achilles last January. He needed 13 months to get back. And the Pelicans are not tanking this year. They don't have their draft pick. They're still holding out hope for the play-in tournament. That guy needed 13 months. He's in his 20s too. Jayson Tatum isn't even at 10 months yet. So, just because we follow Tatum more because he's a champion, superstar, Olympian, all this stuff, the Achilles tears are different. There's a difference between Murray and Tatum and all that stuff. But here's another guy who needed 13 months. Mm-hmm. So just keep that in mind. That if he doesn't come back, it's not like a mark against him.
And he needed 13 months. Jayson Tatum hasn't even been at 10 months yet. Lillard and Halliburton are out. And when KD suffered it, how long was KD out? It was a year and a half.
A year and a half.
Before he came back. Before he came back. So I'm just saying the point is that all of that is evidence to say pump the brakes.
Yeah.
You don't need to come back this season.